FCC was to create diversity in programming. We had 3 networks in the U.S. in the 70s that, on an average night, had 80% of households owning television watching these 3 networks. And cable, with its channel capacity, was deemed to be in the public interest to facilitate the development of programming for diverse interests. Call it narrowcasting. The cable industry evolved to be highly concentrated and with FCC regulations that benefited large owners of television station groups, independent of networks. So the way it played out over 2 or 3 decades is that the original intention of facilitating a national deployment of broadband cable to deliver video actually did not happen. Regulation and concentrated ownership went in the opposite direction from what was intended. It could be that, and I'm sure it will be, that the internet becomes the medium for meeting interests of diverse, narrow segments. And how the programming gets financed, be it on an ad model, a pay-per-use model, a subscription model, hybrids of the 3, is really what's at question. Because ultimately, meeting diverse interest in video is as obvious to me as meeting diverse interest in books and magazines. And broadcasting and cable ended up being, instead of a means of providing an abundance of programming, they actually became a means for limiting the amount of programming.
I agree. I'd like to get down a little bit more into the financing models, if we could, because let's face it, television wouldn't exist without advertisers. Film, in large part, exists because of advertisers. And we're looking at pretty much every platform, with the exception of community and the internet, as being advertiser supported. One little caveat there is that what we're finding is that the advertisers buy buttons and clicks, but they want custom tailored content that incorporate their brands. So to your point, David, that there are films being funded by brands that are about the lifestyle of the brand, but not necessarily about the products. Where do you think the room is for the advertiser in this space now? Because it is an inevitability that this is going to happen. Okay, and the more the internet grows, and the more that the ad revenue dollars start to move there, the fact that the platform becomes more robust and the technology enables the consumer to be able to consume it easier and in a better environment, is something that we have to address, and it's not evil any longer.
Every advertiser we speak to wants something different. They want something special, exciting, interesting. We talk to the producers of high-definition TVs, and they want content that demonstrates how good their products are. And so their quality, the values around quality, are really very, very high. And so searching for the right quality of content and quality of the message and the story is critically important to advertisers across the board now. All the big guys, Volvo, P&G, Unilever, Estee Lauder, they all want to have a great experience that matches their brand. And I think that's a huge opportunity for filmmakers, absolutely massive.
Unquestionably. I think we're out of time. Is that correct? We have 2 minutes to continue, though, down this track. We see the larger producers, the Jerry Bruckheimers, the Joel Silvers, actually have real advertiser relationships directly with brands and are able to incorporate as much as they can from the filmmaker's perspective, not the producer perspective. Aren't we sitting in a position where we actually have to develop this model as opposed to try to ignore it or try to look at it as a niche? Aren't we looking to develop it into a greater, more usable model, Warren?
Going back 30, 40 years ago, I remember a small department in Paramount called product placement. And they were the guys that got all these things from different manufacturers. They all seemed to, at the end of the movie, disappear into producers' and actors' homes, not in the prop department. So product placement in theatrical features going back 30 years plus was a scam in which there were savings on the production budget and the goods and services vanished thereafter. I think it's essential, given the cost of movies and the cost of television and the phenomenon of PVRs and being able to get programming on demand and go through commercials, that commercial messages have to be integrated in a way that isn't just an ad, but is inherent in the material. And secondly, I think advertisers are looking more and more for very, very targeted deliveries of audiences. They can't deal with wasted CPMs for audiences that are not suited for their product. Those factors are going to make the web, can't give you the time frame, be the ideal vehicle for them to be very specific as to who they reach and in what context they reach them.
And what's interesting about it in closing is that they're really able to pay a really big premium now for those things. Is the CPM model goes right out the door the minute they see their brand utilized from a strategic perspective, to your point about the Bulgari, and then from a product utilization perspective based on the timing of the release of a film or TV show.
And isn't Google ultimately about how search-placed advertising that is relevant to the search is where advertisers want to be?
So they say.
Yeah, I just need to make a point about funding, because in Europe we're not able to use advertising on the vast majority of our films because they don't see that for gaining profit. Our financing models are made up of tax breaks, television, pre-sales, very traditional forms. There are some exceptions. In the UK there's a genre of films which are all about football hooligans, and they've built up a huge website, million subscribers. They put up the new script and they've already raised the money because it's targeted an audience that the BBC and other filmmakers have never gone to. And these guys, the last film they did, they sold 800,000 copies. So that is increasingly happening. Just on that advertising, what I'd be interested to know was, do you think, though, I mean, with our films, the sort of how small they are, do you think there could be a new symbiotic relationship between Hollywood blockbusters and the local European film? Because we can't exist, we haven't got that power, or that, you know, the internet's not going to be interested in us as much as your films.
Well, we don't know that to be true, because to Geoff's point earlier, you know, there are small groups, there are large groups. There are the large Hollywood audiences, there are large television audiences. It's really about capturing. I think what the internet is offering us today is the ability to target and then grow from that target. You know, if you can find your audience on the internet and then grow to other platforms, what an ideal world we would live in. It just ain't that simple.
I think Hollywood's quest for the blockbuster is related to how many DVDs can be sold in Walmart. And if this audience visited a Walmart, they'd find it to be an interesting experience versus a Metro or a Carrefour in Europe. So tastes are not homogeneous across the United States. We have red states, blue states, and
a couple of green states now. And
I think there's markets that the major studios are missing. And the independent film market has proven that. And I think the next one is international movies will again come into prominence.
Yeah. I want to thank my panelists for joining me today. I want to thank you guys for sticking around.
That's an interesting point.
Let me have you.